Mangwana ni mwalelepo fukenja Neve Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Mberi on the last day of the month. These are some of the top stories we'll be looking at. Hamas says studying new Israeli truce proposal. EU restricts visa provisions for Ethiopian nationals, and independence of jury must be respected. This said by President Ramaphosa with regards to former President Jacob Zuma's court victories. We'll also be talking to Mike Sichula as he brings us the news stories from Zambia.
Hello, Namapia. Ons is very kus en ons is lus.
By the Easter shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, please, today you make sure that we are fed. Sorry, it's actually.
Now getting into our top stories, Hamas said it was studying Israel's counter-proposal for Gaza ceasefire a day after media reports said a delegation from mediator Egypt was in Israel trying to jumpstart so-called stalled negotiations. The armed wing of Hamas also released video footage of two men being held hostage in Gaza, identified by Israeli campaign group The Hostages and Missing Families Forum as Keith Siegel and Omri Miran. The signs of fresh truce talks come after the United Nations warned that famine thresholds in Gaza will be breached within the next 6 weeks unless massive food assistance arrives. Aid groups say Gaza's already catastrophic humanitarian conditions would be worsened by Israel's vow to attack Hamas fighters still in Rafah city in southernmost Gaza. Rafah, on the border with Egypt, is crowded with hundreds of thousands of Palestinians displaced by nearly 7 months of war between Israel and the Islamist movement. Now, the European Union will limit visas for people from Ethiopia. This is because the Ethiopian government hasn't been able to take back citizens who stay in EU illegally. The EU Council announced this in a statement on Monday. Now, Ethiopians won't get visas for multiple entries anymore. Also, Ethiopians with diplomatic and service passports won't have their visa fees waived. Getting a visa will take longer too. It used to be 15 days, now it will be 45 days, the EU said. Ethiopia hasn't responded yet. Now, the EU decided this because they think Ethiopia isn't doing enough to take back its citizens who stay illegally in the EU. The EU says these restrictions won't last forever, but they haven't said when they will end. Now let's move over to South Africa, where President Ramaphosa says it is not his place to second-guess judgments and what judges say. Ramaphosa was responding to questions about former President Jacob Zuma's electoral court victory. The electoral court overturned a decision of the Electoral Commission of South Africa to bar Zuma from the MK party's parliamentary list due to his 15-month prison sentence. However, the electoral court overturned the IEC's decision to Zuma being unable to appeal his prison sentence, the court explained in its ruling on Friday. In my view, the sentence that was imposed on Zuma cannot be said to be a sentence which the section contemplates, the judgment read. The IEC has since turned to the Constitutional Court seeking clarity on the interpretation of the Constitution. Now, the Mozambican Health Ministry has said that there is nothing that justifies the strike threatened by the Association of United Mozambican Health Professionals. APSUSM has threatened to resume its national strike as a result of lacking of understanding with the government at the negotiating table. Last week, the spokesperson Rosana Zunguze told reporters that the strike is resuming due to failure of the government to honor several promises, including the promotion of health professionals and the payment of overtime pay in arrears. But the health ministry has decided to call the union's bluff. A weekend press release from the ministry cited contacted by the independent daily Au Pairs, said that if the strike did go ahead, it would guarantee healthcare for the public. In other words, the ministry does not believe that most health workers will obey APSUM's call for a strike. The ministry said that the strike threat has come as negotiations are still underway between the associations representing health workers and a multi-sector commission set up by the government. Now, in the last of our top stories, Burkina Faso has suspended yet more foreign media outlets over their coverage of a report accusing its army of killing 223 civilians. The report by US-based Human Rights Watch said it believed the massacre in February was in retaliation for villagers aiding armed Islamists. The West African nation's military government has denied the allegation. They have already suspended BBC and US broadcaster Voice of America for reporting on the HRW's publication. Burkina Faso is ruled by a military junta which seized power in a coup in 2022, promising to end the Islamist insurgency. The violence has, however, continued to escalate, with more than a third of Burkina Faso controlled by jihadist groups. On Sunday, Burkina Faso's communications regulator said broadcasts from French network TV5 Monde would also be suspended for 2 weeks and access to its website blocked, state-owned media reported. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. After the break, we talk to Mike Sichula as he brings us the news stories from Zambia.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
All right, it's time for us to talk to Mike Sichula. Mike Muriwanji.
Tiribuino Muribwanji, Africa, good morning to our dear viewers.
Africa, good morning. Indeed. So it turns out authorities have employed the nurse that gave first aid to football legend Rainford Kalaba, who recently survived a fatal road accident.
Yes, that's the state of affairs. So the background to this story is that on the day the footballer was involved in a road accident, which claimed the female occupant, the nurse happened to be traveling from Lusaka to Kafue, which is a drive of about less than an hour. So when she saw the wreckage of the accident, and people were getting photos, now with social media, she asked the driver if she could be dropped. Then the driver, luckily, the driver agreed of the bus to drop her. Then when she was dropped, she went to the accident scene and she found Rainford Kalaba, who was lying unconscious. And according to her narration, by the time she got there, Rainford Kalaba was not breathing. So she then used her skills of being a voluntary nurse that she learned to ensure that Kalaba started breathing, and she was with him from the accident scene until when they reached the hospital, when medical officers took over from what she had done to bring back Kalaba to start breathing. So this information got the attention of the Civil Service Commission that has now confirmed employment into the government as a nurse. Previously, she had been volunteering at a local clinic.
Wow, one good deed deserves another. Now, in your next story, Mike, the United Nations has made available $5.5 million to support the response to the El Nino-induced drought.
Yeah, as drought has affected about 7.5 million people in 84 districts. So this funding is subject to the completion of necessary formalities by the UN agencies in Zambia, and they are supporting the government-led efforts. So the funds will help in providing emergency funds, emergency food aid, distributing clean and safe water, protection and delivery of healthcare services, to address drought-related health risks, among other needs. And acting UN resident coordinator to Zambia, Penelope Campbell, says the UN stands in solidarity with the people of Zambia at this challenging time.
All right, Mike. Now moving on to your next story. Police in tourism capital Livingston have just rescued a 13-year-old abducted girl.
Availed to the media, the girl is alleged to have been abused by the abductor for 3 days in Mailoni Township in Livingston. So Livingston Mayor Constance Mulavi, who witnessed the rescue operation, described the incident as heartbreaking. The girl had been locked up in a house by her alleged abductor and abused for 3 days. During the period, the alleged abductor never allowed her to go outside and was made to relieve herself using plastic bags, which the owner of the house emptied in the outside when he came. So this girl was rescued by a neighbor who had shout for help. And when he went closer, he found her in the house. Then he asked neighbors if they knew. Then they did not know. Then the chairman of the local committee also got to the scene. That is when they informed the police and they managed to rescue the girl. As we speak, the abductor has not yet been found, because after word went around the community, he seemed to have fled away from the scene.
We certainly hope he can be captured and face justice, and may that girl get all the support she needs. Now, in the last of your stories, Mike, what's the latest on the apparently pending FIFA ban?
Wow. There's, according to Football of Zambia President Andrew Kamanga, he says FIFA has given the association until today, the 30th of April, to furnish the global sports body with all the information about the football situation in Zambia before a decision is made. He said FAZ is hopeful that a long-lasting solution will be found before FIFA intervenes, adding to talks are ongoing with critical stakeholders to ensure that there's quick resolve of the issues. Kamanga said, assuring that Copper Queens do not miss their place at the Olympic Games in due course. So what is happening in Zambia is that the Football Association of Zambia was supposed to hold its annual general meeting as prescribed by FIFA on Saturday last week, but this meeting did not take off because there's a group of third parties, an expelled football administrator and a journalist who have taken the Football Association to court over unspecified reasons. So this first did not go ahead, because if they went ahead, they could have created a contempt of court, which they did not want to do. So this AGM was pushed off, and the matter is likely to come up in court this Thursday. So meaning Zambia by today, they have not done what is required by them, by FIFA. So we are yet to see what FIFA is going to tell Zambia, whether they'll give Zambia a grace period to resolve its issues, or they'll go ahead and impose a ban, which is not something that Zambians would like to hear.
I mean, understandably so. I mean, courts between the court and FIFA, it's a bit of a catch-22. We don't know if they actually make a VAR decision on such things, but we certainly hope it works out for Zambia. Thank you for bringing us the news stories, Mike.
Thank you very much, Africa. Good morning to our dear viewers, and I wish them a happy May Day tomorrow.
We certainly do wish them a happy May Day. Africa, good morning. We'll also be here tomorrow morning to get you started on your restful day as we celebrate the workers around the world. But for now, we're going to have a look at the weather predictions before we return with economic news. In economic news on Africa, good morning. African leaders yesterday called for rich countries to commit record contributions to a low-interest World Bank facility for developing nations that they rely on to help fund their development and combat climate change. Donors will make their cash pledges to the International Development Association, a World Bank institution that offers loans with low interest rates and long tenures, at a conference to be held in Japan in December. We call on our partners to meet us at this historic moment of solidarity and respond effectively by increasing their IDA contributions to at least $120 billion, Kenya's President William Ruto told a meeting of African leaders and the World Bank to discuss IDA funding. Now, African economies were facing a deepening development and debt crisis that threatens our economic stability and urgent climate emergencies that demand immediate and collective action for our planet's survival, Ruto also said. Now, Mozambique's publicly owned electricity company EDM claims that it is losing $20 million a year as a result of public lighting for which it receives no subsidy. The cost of providing street lighting in cities and towns, whether in municipalities or not, is borne directly by EDM. Domestic electricity consumption has risen by 50% over the last 3 years and now stands at 1,080 megawatts at peak times, according to EDM Commercial Director Belmiro Oscar. Interviewed by AIM, he said that in the past, EDM used to supply 500 megawatts at peak time, a demand that was met by the energy supplied by Hydroelectrica de Cahora Bassa, the company that operates the Cahora Bassa Dam on the Zambezi River. But today, the peak is 1,080 megawatts, which cannot be met by HCB. Those have been our economic news stories. We'll head over to the economic indicators just before we go to Adi Hohad bringing us the sport.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news and starting off with tennis news first. This is week 2 now of the Madrid Open. It's a thousands tournament, so all the top players in the world, men and women, playing in the Madrid Open. What's happened over the weekend is that most of the top seeds, men and women, still in the tournament and going into the round of 32 and round of 16. On the women's side of the draw, it is the number 3 seed, Coco Gauff of the USA. She's continuing a good form. She beat Diana Yastremska by 6-4 and 6-1. That was in the round of 32. And then also number 8 seed, Ons Shabia of Tunisia. She's got a better tournament. She battled the last 2 tournaments, but she beat Leila Fernandez of Canada, and she beat her 7-5, 2-6 and 6-4 to also advance to the last 16. And also Maria Sakkari, a good performance by her. She's the number 5 seed. She's also through to the next round. She beat Sloane Stevens of the USA. On the men's side of the draw, number 2 seed Carlos Alcaraz, impressive win for him in the round of 32. He beat Thiago Seybold-Wild. He beat him by 6-3 and 6-3. And then also Rafael Nadal, the experienced player from Spain. And he's still in the tournament. He came back from injury. He's trying to finish his last year of professional tennis on a high note, leading up to Roland Garros. And it is Rafael Nadal that will play Pedro Cachin of Argentina, also in the round of 32, trying to get to the top 16 in the draw. Yannick Sinner, the number 1 seed of the tournament, also still in the tournament, and he will play Pavel Kotov of Russia in the round of 32. Continuing international sports news with soccer news, football news, English Premier League. Not many games left in the season. It is the leader at the moment is Arsenal. They've got 80 league points after 35 games, and they've got 3 games left in the season. And it is Manchester City just 1 point behind them, but they've got 4 games left in the season. So it's all happening fast. The last rounds of the English Premier League will be played on the 19th of May. So what's happening this coming weekend for lock leaders Arsenal? They have a home game against Bournemouth, and it is also a home game for Manchester City. It's Manchester City that will play at home against Wolverhampton. Those are the 2 games over the weekend. And to close off today's international sports news, it is cricket news. It is the T20 World Cup cricket tournament for men that will start in June. It will start on the 2nd of June, and that will be played, some of the games in the United States of America, but mostly many of the pool games, also the semi-finals and the finals will be played in the West Indies. News from the tournament, and it's from Pakistan, is that Pakistan announced that South African Gary Kirsten will be the new white ball coach for them. White ball meaning that it's 2 formats. Gary Kirsten will be the coach now of Pakistan for the T20 games that they play, and also the 50-over internationals. It was Gary Kirsten that previously coached India, and they had good success in 2011. It was India that won the 50-over World Cup under Gary Kirsten. Gary Kirsten currently coaching the Gujarat Titans in the IPL, the Indian Premier League, and he will join the Pakistan team in England in May. They will have a T20 series against England before the World Cup starts on the 2nd of June. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning on the 30th of April. Let's have a look at the highlights from this morning's broadcast. Hamas says studying new Israeli truce proposal. EU restricts visa provisions for Ethiopian nationals. And African leaders seek record World Bank financing to combat climate change. Yes, tomorrow is Workers' Day, but we will get you started off with Africa Good Morning, making sure that you stay informed on the pertinent stories stemming from the African continent and beyond. But for now, from Ashwin Bedi and the Africa Good Morning team, Suraj Kanaka.